Hi, welcome to the latest Ginn and Topic podcast or chat, however you want to call it. I'm here with someone very familiar to me. He's a friend of mine since right before high school. His name's James McKnight, and he wrote a book about his experience in Japan, uh, following a baseball team and being a fish out of water. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I'm just going to go over a little bit about our background. We joined a YMCA basketball summer league, and we were free agents, so we didn't have a school to join or anything like that. So me and James were on the same team, and that's how we got to meet, and we've become lifelong friends. Would you remember about those days, Jim?
Well, thanks, Leighton, for having me, and look forward to talking with you during our time. Well, the thing I remember the most is that it was 100 degrees outside, and the gym had no air conditioning, so it was probably like 110 in there.
At least
Um,
maybe 140.
yeah, that was harsh. And then the other thing I remember is there was a scrawny African American kid shooting free throws after a game, and you said that guy's going to be a great player someday, and I said, you don't know what you're talking about. And he ends up going to the Final Four and plays in the NBA for 12 years and becomes an All-Star. And that scrawny kid was Sean Elliott. So I knew right away that Leighton had a good eye for talent and athletes. So it's amazing that you made that your profession as a sports writer.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. But we also got to know each other a little bit more in college. We went to the University of Arizona. We joined the same fraternity, and we're both journalism majors.
Yeah.
But you kind of went a little bit different direction right after college. Can you talk about where you how, where you went?
Yeah, it's funny that we met our freshman year, and when I saw you there and your brother, I was like, man, this is amazing how we connected again. Yeah, the journalism worked for me, and U of A life worked for me, but I was worried about getting a job after college, so I joined a special program, racetrack industry program, where they helped me get a job at a horse racing track as a publicist, and they followed through. I graduated in 4 years, and they followed through and got me a job out at the racetrack in Rios, New Mexico, and on to Louisiana, and eventually into Phoenix. So, you know, 5 years in the horse racing industry as a publicist, that was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot, and I honed my writing skills, and met a lot of nice people. So yeah, I mixed the journalism with horse racing.
That sounds very envious. I'm thinking of a lot of people who would love to have your job.
Yeah, it was fun going to work every day. I loved it, except when I missed, when I had to work on 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and missed everybody's weddings and birthday parties for 5 years. But it was worth it.
Now, didn't you cross paths with Bob Baffert, the legendary
Oh
Bob
yeah,
Baffert?
Bob Baffert, all the big time trainers. We'd run into them. Whether it was in the winner's circle or at the bar on the other side of the road across the track. I ran into lots of people. I met George Strait, Tim Conway,
Wow.
Michael Martin Murphy, Bo Derek, Jack
Oh,
Nicholson. They all those people love horse racing. So
you're
uh,
my
it was great.
preteen hero for meeting Bo Derek.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she was nice.
So, but then there's a part of your life, and this was where we start getting into your book. Is it called Yellow and Black Fever? I'm sorry, I just blanked on here.
Yeah, Yellow and Black Fever, Life, Love, and Baseball in the Land of the Rising Sun.
So can you talk about what happened in your life then that led for you to make this whole jump to go to a foreign country where you didn't know much of the language, and I'm sure you were a major fish out of water.
Yeah, I mean, you know me pretty well, and I'd probably be the last guy that would drop everything and move to a foreign country. You know, I'd miss my New York pizza, my sports center,
Hmm.
you know, lots of things about America I'd miss. And, I never thought about living in a foreign country, but I traveled to Japan in 1988 and had a good time. But, then life happened. I got a job and work. Then I started going on some trips to England and Germany and Europe. And I started, how fascinating sports were in other countries.
Hmm.
Because back then we didn't have satellite TV like we do now, where we could see sports around the world.
Hmm.
So yeah, year 2000, I went to Japan for the second time. I went to two baseball games, and the second one was a Hanshin Tigers game, and I met some crazy baseball fans. They took me under their wing. I was all by myself. One of them spoke English. We had a great time. Basically, it was like a life-changing experience to watch a game with them, and I thought, hey, I live in Phoenix by myself in a one bedroom apartment, and the Japanese people were nice. It seemed fascinating, their culture, not just for baseball, but the ancient culture. And of course, I like the food. So I thought, hey, 1 year in a foreign country, maybe it'll recharge my batteries, give me a different outlook on life. And of course, I had my baseball, so I knew I could survive.
Baseball is the lifeline, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If it wasn't there, there's no way I could have survived there.
Now, what was it about those two games? Because I mean, obviously, the whole culture of baseball is different in Japan than it is here in the U.S. Can you talk about when you went to those two games? What is it about the Japanese game, the way they appreciate baseball, that kind of in addition to the friends that you made, but what is it about the game that kind of drew you in?
Well, first game I went to was Yakult Swallows versus Yokohama Bay Stars. It wasn't very interesting, very slow. They're very conservative. Lots of bunts, lots of sacrifice flies. Pitchers, like to hit the corners. They don't really attack the batter like they do here.
Hmm.
And I didn't meet anybody because it was in Tokyo.
Okay.
And I was with my sister and my mom, so for that one. But the second game was the Hanshin Tigers game, and I was by myself, and it was against the Tokyo Giants, so it was a rivalry game. So it was a little more frenetic, the fans, and the people gave me, they gave me this hachimaki, this headband, so I looked like Daniel San of Karate Kid. Um, they gave me these, they're called megaphones, which you clack together to cheer for your team when they're batting. Of course, they gave me lots of drinks, lots of food, and the game was exciting, and to see 20,000 people all clacking those bats together, singing songs at the top of their lungs. There's trumpets, there's bass drums. I thought I was at like a Michigan Ohio State football game rather than a baseball game in Japan. The way the crowd was just so into it, even though the Tigers were like 30 games under 500. The fans never gave up. They cheered till the very end. They didn't leave, and the team lost, but the people stayed and cheered. And then we left, and they cheered outside, and they, you know, had showed solidarity as a unit. It just blew me away. It was so different than the American game. I mean, I like both of them, but
Mhm.
the Japanese game really struck a chord with me. The way the fans
How long
react.
did it take? I'm sorry. How long did it take for you to take the dive to say, I'm going to drop everything here in the U.S. and move to Japan and follow this team?
Well, once I got back to the U.S. again, I thought there's no way. It was a nice trip, nice experience. Made some friends. Probably never see them again. But the Japanese baseball fans were so nice to me. I sent them a package of Chicago Cubs stuff, Cleveland Indians stuff that I had, and we started writing letters to each other and started writing emails. So I was like, wow, these people aren't actually fly by night. They want to be my friend. And during the same trip, I met a friend of mine from Phoenix who was living on the Air Force base there, and he was teaching English on the side just to make some money. And he was like, "Make money here easily. There's lots of people eager to learn English. $50 an hour to teach." I was like, "Wow, I'm only making like 20 an hour in Phoenix."
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the baseball people, and then I started looking up the teaching programs, and I found the JEP program, which was run by the Japanese government. So it sounded stable. They'd help me get an apartment, help me get settled. So I thought, hey, this, if I'm going to move to a foreign country, I'm going to need some support, and they provided it. I applied, I was accepted. I did an interview at the U of A. They chose me, and, July of 2001, I was on a plane with 30 to 40 other teachers. Most of them were like fresh out of college, but we all had lots of hopes and dreams, and we were excited to start our new lives. But that was the beginning. Once I got there, I was not assigned to the glitz and glamour of Osaka or Tokyo or Yokohama or Kobe. I was put out in the countryside, 120 miles from the nightlife. So it was a big shock coming from Phoenix. Eventually I adapted.
Yeah. What did your parents and your family say when you said, "Oh, I'm out of here. I'm going to Japan, of all places"?
My mom was a little nervous. My sisters were supportive.
Hmm.
My dad said, "Hey, you're 33 years old. You should do what you feel is right." My dad was a teacher, so he thought it was worth trying the teaching profession, even if it was just for a year.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was probably harder leaving my cat behind than my family, because my
Don't tell your
sisters were
family that. You
married.
might not be getting anything great for Christmas, and when they hear that.
Yeah, but they supported me, so,
That's good.
and they still do.
Yeah, but that's a big move. So, once you get there, obviously you're not in the big metropolitan cities that we all think about in Japan that are exciting. You're out in the rural areas. What kind of adjustment was that for you?
Well, mainly just I didn't have a car for about 3 months. That was hard, so I had to ride a bicycle, which isn't so bad, except in late August and September is typhoon season. So you
Wow.
walk out the door. Yeah, you walk out the door and it's sunny and 90 degrees and humid, and then you ride home and you can barely see. There's sheets of rain. That was a little rough. But and also, carrying all my worldly possessions for work in a backpack or my groceries on a bicycle was hard. And just, the language, people, there was only two Asians in my whole town of 20,000 people, so everyone saw me and stared at me. Usually they didn't talk to me because they were nervous, but I made some friends,
Mhm.
and I
Well, you're-
met a friend from Uganda. Was my first friend. He
oh,
spoke
really?
English to me. Yeah, I
So an
helped him
American in Uganda
carry.
and in Japan, huh?
Right, yeah, riding bikes down the narrow road, carrying 10 dozens of eggs on our bicycles. I'm sure
Mhm.
we turned a lot of heads. But the people were generally nice, curious. Kids in the schools were pretty cooperative,
Mhm.
and I was just an assistant teacher, so the main teachers helped me a lot to adapt. So eventually I embraced the country life, and it was peaceful, it was quiet, beautiful green farms and fields and mountains.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I could go to the city for a baseball game or nightlife and be back in my nice quiet town. So I think I have the best of both worlds.
How far were you from now? Which baseball team did you follow when you were there? Same one?
Well, I was Hanshin Tigers, so unfortunately Osaka was about 500 kilometers, 300 miles.
Oh
So it'd
wow.
be like going from Phoenix to LA
Yeah.
to watch a baseball game. So I'd either have to ride a bus, like a night bus
Hmm.
you could get on in my town and be in Osaka the next morning at 7 a.m.
Hmm.
Or, you could ride the bullet train, which is a little faster but costs 3 times as much, or I could fly a plane. But
Hmm.
once I got the hang of things, I could go to Tokyo for road games a lot. But
Hmm.
when you can't read the ticket machine to buy tickets, and you can't talk to the lady on the phone to buy tickets, it's kind of hard. So it took me a while to adapt to that. But when there's a will, there's a way. I wanted to buy tickets for baseball games, so eventually I started learning the Chinese characters to purchase tickets. So I was motivated, but yeah, it was far to go to a game, but it was always worth it.
Oh, wow. So how many games would you go in a season?
It built up. I mean, the first year I just went to two, and then the second year I probably went to 12, 15 games. But as I got used to the system and buying the tickets, and I made a good network of friends, some years I'd go to 20, 25 games.
Wow. And how much did that help you, being part of the games and the culture, help you with the culture shock and being a fish out of water?
Yeah, mainly in my town. Like I said, there's only two Caucasians, and there might have been my friend from Uganda, maybe a few Brazilians, but yeah, I was definitely the fish out of water in my town. And in Tokyo, I just had a hard time making friends. But it seemed like every time I went to Osaka, my baseball friends, which I talk about in the book a lot, they they didn't look at my face. They just said, "You're a Hanshin Tigers fan. Let's cheer together." And eventually I learned more Japanese. I could communicate with the friends, and anytime we got a road game, if my friends from Osaka couldn't come, they'd always text or call somebody in Tokyo or Hiroshima or wherever I was going and say, hey, my friend wants to go to the game. Can you help him get a seat in that outfield with the Tigers section? So it was like a whole network, and I met so many interesting people. I mean, people that were homeless, people that were college students, people that were single mothers,
Oh
people
wow.
that were drop dead drunks, college professors, engineers that built bridges, yakuza, Japanese mafia members, construction guys, uh, Buddhist monks, everything. Everyone loves baseball, and everyone worked together to cheer for the Tigers. And through them, I just learned a lot about Japan and Japanese culture. Especially, it was different because back in Gunma, where I lived in the countryside, I was with teachers. They
Hmm.
were busy teaching, so
Right. So they
yeah, it
really,
was a great experience.
yeah. So it's like just being part of the team lets you see all of Japanese culture because you had such a diverse group of friends there. I mean, it's crazy how diverse that group was.
Oh yeah, women, men, kids, and of course we usually meet at the stadium 3, 4 hours before the game, have
Oh,
have late lunch, go shopping for supplies, beer, bento box, sushi, edamame.
mm-hmm.
You can take it all into the stadium. I mean, you can take, you know, 3 cases of beer in there if you want, if you can carry it. And that
Which
was
has
the
you bringing that
game.
much beer with
And
you?
oh yeah, yeah, between there's 20 people in the group, so you could bring in complete ice chests. So we had all our supplies. We try to talk to the players before the game. And then obviously the game would start. We cheer, go crazy, and hopefully the team would win. If they didn't, which many times they didn't, we still hung out. And then after the game was karaoke and more eating and drinking and sometimes staying up all night. You know, it was just, but I learned a lot about the food. I mean, every type of food you can imagine, I think I consumed there. And they taught me lots the food culture, which is amazing, and just all sorts of pop culture and things that I never would have learned from a textbook or with the people that I was with in the small town.
And now, who of this group, who are some of your best friends? Can you talk a little bit about them and their influence on you?
You know, the first guy I met was O'Malley. He's
Not your typical Japanese name.
yeah, well, everyone uses an alias in the stadium. Just try to keep things cool. But you know, as I got to know them, you know, I started learning about their jobs. But not a lot of personal information was shared. But he is a monk, and he
Your first
also
friend
did
was
some,
a monk.
yeah, Buddhist monk, right? Who spoke English.
Wow.
Yeah, and he wore the same jerseys I did, like this. But yeah, he used the baseball games to release his stress. You know, there's a jersey.
Oh, there it is. Tigers.
Yeah. So he, you know, everyone uses baseball for a different reason. He used it to release his stress at his job, and but he's a genius. But in the stadium, he could get crazy and loud. My other friend Tiger, I know it's a weird name since we cheer for the Hanshin Tigers, but that is actually a name for Japanese men, Tiger.
Okay.
And yeah, was very well to do, but he didn't care about following in the family business, so he kind of dabbled around in lots of things. And he knew a lot about baseball, played baseball in an adult league, and he really was interested in Major League Baseball, so we could talk about that.
Hmm.
And you know, a lot of other people I met. Those two were my closest friends. I even brought them to America 3 times. We saw some major league games and had some
Which
fun. So
which teams did you? Which games did you take them to?
we went to Dodger Stadium, Padres, went to spring training. So we must have, you know, Chase Field, Diamondbacks.
Now, what was their
So
take on
Anaheim.
American baseball coming from Japan?
Well, the crazy thing is that during baseball season, you can watch about 3 major league games every day.
Hmm.
They're on the public channel, NHK Channel 1.
Hmm.
So starting at maybe about 8 a.m.,
Hmm.
you could watch the Red Sox or Yankees, you know, depending if there was a Japanese player. Around 11 to be the Mariners or Angels. And then, you know, there might be another game later on, and they're usually replayed in the night. So they were really familiar with
Oh, wow.
the Japanese players in the major leagues and a lot of things going on. So just to bring them here to see it was, you know, they watch them every day because that's what's amazing is you can watch major league in the morning till the early afternoon, take a 3-4 hour break, and then you got Japanese games all night. So you know, it's like baseball heaven.
So, but then your life changed some more. Eventually, you would start dating, and then eventually you met your wife. Can you talk about the events leading up? You know, your love life leading up to meeting your wife.
Well, yeah, I met some Japanese ladies when I, you know, after the first few months I lived there. Probably should have waited, you know, until I spoke Japanese a little better because I was pretty much talking like a 3 or 5 year old. But you know, like I said, it would have been easier to have dated an English speaker, but I was 33 and most of the other English teachers were 22, the age difference was pretty big. So I just, I made a lot of female friends that were English teachers, but not romantic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I met some Japanese ladies, had some great times with them, and we traveled around a lot. I learned a lot about hot springs and food, and you know, again, trying to communicate. I was motivated to talk to my girlfriends as best I could in Japanese. So that motivated me to study more. Unfortunately, I kept striking out. So I had 2 strikes on long-term relationships, but I got up to bat for the third time, and the third long-term relationship I had wasn't my wife, who's my wife now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she couldn't speak any English. She wasn't interested in English.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to adapt, and I had to learn Japanese ways. And she was patient, and I was patient, and eventually got married 2006, and had 2 kids, and I stayed in Japan for a total of 12 years. I thought I'd never leave, but one thing led to another, and I ended up coming back to Arizona. So.
And then you brought your family too, so it's kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
you guys reversed roles with you and your wife. Now she's, I mean, Tucson's a pretty diverse crowd, but still, she's a little bit of a fish out of water.
Yeah, it was pretty rough initially for her and for me, because I hadn't lived in this city since 1991, so a lot had changed. But yeah, we had family and some friends who helped us adapt, and eventually found jobs, and kids adapted faster than we did.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're bilingual, and my wife is bilingual now, and she's got a good job, and I've been working pretty steadily, and things are going good.
And then what was the motivation to write this book? Because obviously it's such a great premise, fish out of water, foreign country, and just kind of give us an insight about Japanese baseball. What kind of led you to write this?
Well, it started as a diary. I had an office job after teaching for 3 years, and there wasn't a whole lot to do some days. So I thought, okay, I'll just start typing away on my computer. Look like I'm working, because they just didn't give me enough to do. So, um, so I started typing the diary, and eventually I thought, there's lots of foreigners in Japan. There's lots of Americans that go abroad, and my story is not unique. But then I started thinking about the baseball people and how much they taught me, and they didn't see me as a foreigner, even though my face looked different. They defended me in fights. They stood up for me. They made fun of me. I made fun of them, but it was all in good fun. I thought, these guys are fascinating. And everyone I tell about these people that I meet in the baseball stadium, people are like, wow, this is crazy. And I thought, well, I'm going to write this book as a present to them, to thank them for their patience, kindness, and friendship. And then I just thought it was a story worth telling, that, a guy from Arizona that can't speak Japanese, not even interested in living in a foreign country, could slowly adapt, make friends, fall in love, avidly follow a baseball team, and become part of the Hanshin Tigers nation. If you think the Red Sox nation is something, it doesn't stand up to anything like the Hanshin Tigers, and I think it's worth experiencing, because we have great sports here in America, but until you go to Japan to watch a baseball game, you're in for a real experience.
Now, who are some of the top stars that you saw that wound up coming out to the U.S. and playing in the major leagues?
Well, I saw Hideki Matsui play for 3 years.
Wow.
Of course, he's on our rival team, the Yomiuri Tokyo Giants. So, of course, I booed him and yelled at him a lot. and tried to rattle him. It failed usually. He always seemed to hit a home run or something. Koji Uehara was also, he became I think he got the last out in the 2013 World Series for the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
He was also Tigers' nemesis. Keiichi Yabu played for the A's. I saw Yu Darvish. He's on the Cubs. I saw him pitch in high school.
Wow.
And most of the guys that have been coming back and forth, Kazuo Matsui, Shinjo, most of them we saw play, Matsuzaka Daisuke. And as long as they weren't on the Giants, I cheer for them all the time. So.
So how's the book doing so far for you?
A lot better than I expected. Here's a little proof copy of it, just so you can see. But I'm selling five books a day, just advertising on Facebook and through word of mouth. But I'm almost to 100 sales. It doesn't sound like much, but considering I just bought it, wrote the book for my friends and as kind of a bucket list item, I'm totally happy and to share my story. But that's why I'm kind of talking to you, is I want to get the word out and some notoriety, and I have another book loaded up to write. The last
Nice.
three more years of my life in Japan, where things get a little dodgy and then they get really bad and then they get good again. So I've got another story to tell, and this is just kind of the testing the waters to see if people are interested in my story and get me some encouragement and get my name out as an author for the next book.
Well, that sounds great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Is there anything else we might have missed?
No, I don't think so. Just, keep cheering for the Tigers. Games start at 10 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. Arizona time if you have the strength to stay up that late to watch them on the internet. But yeah, just I guess what I want to say is don't be afraid. You hear about how dangerous countries are overseas. Well, no place is going to be completely safe. No place is going to be completely dangerous. But if you have a will, there's a way, and dive into foreign culture, and it might change your life. And if you're not interested in it, have an open mind. And Japan's a great country, and great food, great people, beautiful scenery, and obviously great baseball. So don't be afraid, take a chance, and whether you fail or succeed, at least you took that chance. And you might end up like me, where I took a chance and it paid off, and I had to have perseverance, and I had to be humble, and I had to keep my mouth shut a lot of times and learn from the people around me. But it paid off, and it changed my life, and I would never regret a single day that I spent in Japan.
Well, thanks again, Jim. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on the book. That's a great accomplishment, and it sounds like a great story. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Please check it out on Amazon. Yellow and Black Fever, Life-Loving Baseball, and Land of the Rising Sun.
Thanks again, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Leighton.